Maybe I should left. Ready?
Yeah, let's go with this one.
Okay, can start. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming tonight. It's great to see such a large group of leaders, large group of well-educated and sharp-dressed leaders. So Pat asked us to ask all the presenters to wear the oldest club jersey they could fit into. So this is mine. This is Pat's fault, so blame her for it. So up here is tonight's program. I didn't hear what was said, but I probably didn't want to. So. This is an overview of tonight's program. We're going to meet our new ride leaders, get some committee reports, learn about... Oh, you already flipped.
Yeah.
Oh. Learn about some new ride calendar changes, take a look at the new 25th anniversary jersey, as well as receive some other important information. Jeff's running the computer screen from over my shoulder. So. Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shelby Miller. I'm the current TCBC president, and thank you. I wasn't expecting applause, so it's a nice bonus. I've been in the club for about 24 years. I missed that first year, but I've been around for a while, and as you can tell by the jersey. Let's see. Yeah, let's flip. This is well rehearsed. This is my the agenda that was provided for me tonight, my assigned agenda. So just a couple of reminders to sign in with Scott and Mary and update your information for the database up front if you haven't done that yet. And I was going to say pick up awards, but I don't think they arrived tonight. So we'll have to get them at the All Club Rider at another event. And I'd also like to thank the folks who worked on the presentation tonight. So I'd like to thank all the presenters, Jeff for putting together the PowerPoint and running the equipment, Scott and Mary for doing registration, Linda Johnson, Ginny Halloran, Jackie Battis for cutting the cake and various other duties as assigned, and Lois Carlson, and Don Picard as well for pictures, and last but not least, Pat Celine for organizing. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. And Pete as well, after the applause. Sorry, Pete. Next, I think we have a little bit of... Next slide is... I'd like to introduce the 2018 TCBC Board of Directors. Please stand when I call your name so everybody can get a good look at you so they know how to corner you later if they have questions. Vice President Mike Cubis. Secretary Casey Kramer. Why don't you just stay standing and we'll yeah, so people can see you from all angles. And our directors, George Blank, Edward Ero, Bob Fix, and Ann Harris couldn't be here tonight. Pete May, Fran Raby, and our treasurer, our continuing treasurer, Roger Fickbaum, who's also not here. Just a little bit of TCBC history. TCBC was formed in 1993 as a Hosteling International Activity Club. As this is 2018, it's our 25th anniversary. In 2000, we became an independent 501c3 educational nonprofit organization. In 2008, we received the League of American Bicyclists Bike Club of the Year award. And now, 25 years later, in 2018, we're still going strong with almost 1,500 members. So. And a couple of leader facts for you. Since 1986, we've trained 599 leaders. And I think Pete has probably trained about 560 of those. And that includes 16 new leaders trained this year in 2018. We're going to hear about them and see them in just a second. Last year, 166 leaders led 1,829 rides, which when I talk to people, when I talk to outsiders outside of TCBC and I talk about the club and how many leaders we have and how many members we have and stuff, this number is the one that they're really amazed by. It's the number of rides we lead, because I think they're thinking, like a few dozen or something, and I say, well, close to 2,000, and they're just really shocked. So that's thanks to all you guys here. So thanks for all the hard work you do, and let's keep it up. Well, we'd like to continue our 25th anniversary celebration throughout 2018 by dusting off some of our old ride maps and bringing back some of our old club favorites, some of those popular rides that may have fallen by the wayside over the years. So please consider leading some of those rides, whether it's a ride you used to lead and you haven't led it for a long time, or it's a ride you used to enjoy and would like to see it again. Please consider leading those. And we have, to jog your memory, we have some Minnesota Bike Atlases over on the table there, so you can take a look at those. Or you can talk to these folks. Leaders who keep on leading. So here we have some very familiar names and some vaguely familiar faces. Bob Hoffman, Pete May, Pete Hawkins, Doug and Linda Peterson, Doug Nelson. They've been around for a while. And considering actually that these photos are between 26 and 29 years old, they all look almost just like their photos, don't they? We have a lot to talk about tonight, so on that note, here's our wonderful TCBC Board of Directors Secretary, Casey Kramer.
Okay, is that for me or was that for Shelby? So I'm going to introduce the new ride leaders for this year. There were 3 classes. So when I call your name, please stand up. Everyone, please hold your applause until the end. Nelson Adamson. Dino Balafas. Peter Brayfogle. Dave Harthen, Andy Martin, Chuck Nelson, John Rogers, Mark Sperry, David Backlund, Matt Fetzer, Pam Johnson, Peter Rue, Donna Sanders, Karen Beatles, Dinah Cohen, Ed Jacobson, Roy Lewis, Hall Sanders, and Eileen Schubert. All right. So next up we have Edward, who is going to be doing technology.
Thanks, Jason. So I, as well as being on the board, chair the technology committee for TCBC. And the first slide there, we wanted to, in keeping with the little history, we go back to 1993, so our technology for the club was, and Pat, can you stand up? On the side of her shirt is a phone number. It's the other side. And the other side. So that was how we learned about rides. Larry Miller would record a message so you'd call in and get the information for rides. And then you could leave a message and then someone might get back to you in a few days. And you'll be seeing tonight how that's transitioned as we have now even a new ride calendar and ride stats program. So you'll be hearing about that later. So I just wanted to talk a little bit. The technology committee, Bob Fix is on that, Jim Pedersen, Kate Kovar, Richard Franco, and Gordon Fink. And our committee, when I was given the task, I said, well, if we're a technology committee, we have to meet only online, because we have to test out different technologies. And it's actually worked quite well. We meet on a monthly basis. Usually in the summer, though, we might take off some time, although this year we might have more things that we're working on. The focus areas that we've had now is been ride stats, our website, the night ride change that we implemented, ride with GPS, our data security. That's a big issue now, as you know, everywhere with technology. Our document storage, where we're putting things, trying to test out an online meeting. We were actually hoping to test that out tonight, but we're recording this, and we didn't want to have two things trying to do at the same time. The use of GPX files for rides, the use of social media, and some looking at project management. So I'll talk about these just real quick. A big thanks to Bob Floyd, who really implemented the Ride with GPS program, and that's been going strong. Glenn Olson now is going to co-chair that with him, and for 2017, there was 60, or what we have right now is 60 ride leaders and 279 routes that are available through that program. And a link to TCB's Ride with GPS account information will be posted on the official Ride Leaders Forum page after tonight's meeting, and then there'll be video training also. GPX, I've heard from a lot of people, especially on the all-club rides, if we could get ride leaders to, with so many people now using Garmin's and other types of things, if we can get ride leaders to upload a GPX and put that on there, or some type of link. A lot of riders like that, and you don't get lost, because then you could just follow that on your Garmin. So we're asking people to do that. Social media, we're still exploring, and of course everything that's been going on with Facebook and everything else, I don't know, we'll have to reconsider even more. And then the project management was more a way of exploring for committee chairs to take over projects and to pass things on. Next slide. So next we have, let me just say something about the document storage. We've been working, and Jim's been working at putting some of the documents on the website, and so we're going to be, you'll be seeing some of that already. We do have a document retention policy that we're looking at too. So next is Gordon to talk about the new calendar.
Thanks, Ed. I discovered this little pull-out thing from my notes, and I wish that tornado would go by. I'm not going to be worried here. I actually go back with the club to when we were just plain old AYH, and we got the what was called the Hustler newsletter, which unfortunately sounded a lot like we've got to go get the Hustler when I'm going to go find out about rides, and so that's easier now that we've got a live website to talk about. So what's happening here is we got some changes to our ride calendar and to our ride scheduling system. And for us riders, which is everybody here obviously, we've got a new ride calendar, which I really like quite a bit. And for us ride leaders, we've got a couple things to learn, some terminology for the ride scheduling system, and a few things about how the website is working. So first I'm going to talk about the calendar, because that's pretty easy. Well, let me do a little quick run through about why we're having these changes right now. So one thing, the current calendar we have is no longer supported by the vendor. And that could be okay, except one of the problems with it not being supported is it doesn't allow us to have secure website access. So the HTTPS protocol, where you see the little lock beside your browser link, doesn't work. And a lot of the browsers now, and especially Chrome, are being really picky, and they said this website is insecure. And that does not work very well. So we want to take care of that security issue. The Ride Stats 2 system that is now have the calendar along with it allows us to be secure and use HTTPS. There's also some critical bug fixes in ride stats too, particularly related to mileage calculations. We definitely want that to be in. And as happens with many technology situations, the calendar, the statistics are integrated, can't have one without the other. So we've got a new ride calendar system that is going to happen. A couple things to know about that ride calendar system. Rides that are out there on the calendar now are going to get transferred over. So Lyle, Jim, and Bob are taking care of that. So you ride leaders that have already gone to the trouble to create rides for part of the year should show up on the new calendar just fine. There's going to be an archive of the old ride calendar that Jim Pedersen's going to take care of. Right now it's available. You'll see it if you go to the Rides website now. The new calendar is under Ride Calendar. The old one says Old Ride Calendar. But that'll eventually disappear, and Jim's going to handle keeping those, so you'll be able to get to those old rides if you want them. Another nicety for the leaders is that when you go to enter your ride sheets, all the information from your ride is going to be pre-filled in, except for the rider names and the mileage, so you don't have to do any other typing or getting to go with your ride sheets. And then the big difference is we're going to learn about, instead of just having rides, we have to have an event, which is kind of a pattern for a ride, and then the ride itself. I'm going to go through a quick overview. I'll show some slides and then kind of talk specifically about what this exactly means to you when you're scheduling a ride. So first, here we see our new calendar. It actually looks like a calendar, so the rides all drop down and just show on the dates there. So, and a much more kind of natural view of the information on the calendar. And you'll also see we've got the ability to go by month, by week, or by day. And given the fact that we have 1,800 rides in a year, there's a lot of days that have more than a month's, a little calendar day's worth of room, so that day view is going to be pretty handy. And you get a lot more information about the kind of the whole week from this view. There's also a really nice search function. And basically you can search for rides that meet any of the criteria that a ride might have. So you can use keywords. So like, for example, if you want to see something down in the Mendota neighborhood, you can just put in Mendota and find all of them that have Mendota in the name or the description. Location, ride type, is it hilly, is it flat? Ride category, ABC. And I was going to show a couple of slides there, but we don't want to take forever showing this, and we'll be seeing those things. But basically, you've got a pretty strong ability to search for rides. And the thing that I like the best, this is always kind of my quibble with the old one, is that when you clicked on a ride, you'd wind up going to a whole other web page, and there'd be a kind of context switch, and there's a little bit kind of extra work, it seemed like, to see the contents of the ride. But now, clicking on a ride causes one of these new modern web browser slide outs to appear. And so it doesn't replace the screen that's got the calendar on it. It just kind of covers it over, and it moves in and out really quickly in a way that I think is very intuitive. And so we'll show you what that looks like. So if you say you clicked on one of these rides, now we're going to see the ride details. And again, that kind of just slides out in a really kind of nice looking manner. A lot of useful pieces of information there. So a set of the ride details, a bigger map than we're used to having, and what I really like the best is a button on there that says Open Google Maps. It says show me how to get there, and then that'll take you to a new web page or a tab that is in just the normal Google Map display with the location of the ride already filled in. And so you can type in your home address or whatever, and then just zip right to it. One little user kind of thing you'll need to know is a lot of times in these slide outs, there's kind of a little set of arrows to the side that you'll see to click. In this case, there's the arrow up in the corner that I've labeled Return to Calendar. There's a little X there, and so that's the way you get back to your calendar, is to click that X. An important thing to note about that is you've got to click the X. If you use the back button on your browser, that takes you back to the front page of the ride. And I don't know if you have a little UI quibble there, but Jim and I have been collecting some things we're going to feed back to Michelle for there's some improvements we'd like to see in some simple things. But if you click on the X, it works just fine. So that's really the core of what you can do with the new ride calendar. Nice improvement, UI, better graphics. I think it's going to work out really great for us. So, a little more complex now is this change to scheduling rides. And now the old way you used to do this, and you're all familiar with this, you log into biketcbc.org to submit your ride. and you fill out the ride information, submit it for approval. It will get approved by the ride committee, and then as soon as it's approved, it appears on the calendar. So one ride, one step. And then finally, when your ride is done, then you log into Ride Stats and enter your ride sheet. Now the new way is all done within Ride Stats. So there'll have to be, so once you're in Ride Stats, you can do everything you want to do along with about your rides. So when you log into Ride Stats, I've got an idea for a ride I want to have, or a series of rides. What you're going to do is create a thing called events. And in my mind, an event is kind of like the catalog. If you were going, like a lot of people here will be familiar with the idea of going to the bike shop and saying, I'd like to order a new 7 bicycle. And then so they bring out the catalog, and here's a bunch. You can get different geometries, you can get different styles of bikes, you can get different components, you can get different wheels, kind of a whole set of things to pick from. So when you're creating an event for your ride, you're basically building up a catalog of all the things you want to do with that ride. As I'm going to be scheduling this ride between the 1st of May and the 31st of August, so it's a summer ride. It's going to start at, say, Mendota Plaza. It's got some description to it. It's going to be kind of hilly. It's, it could be, Pat and I might be leading that ride, so we can have multiple ride leaders. It'll start somewhere between 8:30 and 10:30 in the morning, and it's just a bunch of selections that if you want to create a ride, you'll pick from those ideas to actually schedule a ride. But then what happens, so you'll have kind of built this catalog of what the ride looks like, and then you submit that, and what will be approved then by the ride committee is the event. And so they say, okay, this is going to be great, you can have rides all summer long, they're going to start in Mendota Plaza, have fun with that. Then when the week comes, you say, I want to have a ride this Saturday. You'll see, and I'll show on the slides, you'll have a list of all of the events that you have come up with, and in that, you'll go to that set of events, and you'll pick one of those and say, okay, we're starting at 8:30, and it's going to be on Saturday, and I'm going to be the ride leader, and then you submit that, and that goes on the calendar. So the step that puts your ride on the calendar is actually submitting a ride. And then finally, you'll log into the ride stats again and then enter the ride sheet. So again, I think of an event, again, like kind of a catalog or kind of like a blueprint, and then the ride is kind of like ordering your bike from the catalog or building a house off of a blueprint. So we do a couple slides here about what creating events is like. So again, we're in ride stats here, and then you click the little calendar. You have a selection of things, so particularly interesting is create events, and then my events is what you'll see after you've created your event. So the first thing, there's actually a set of guided activities that you do to create your event. So the first one is actually the event information itself. What's the name of my event? What dates is it going to be scheduled or available to be scheduled on? So again, this is a thing that it's not a particular date. It's like I want to have this ride in between the 1st of May and the 31st of August. If you're just doing a single ride, you just put the same start and end date. And I think, in fact, it automatically fills those dates out for you. And the next thing that's a little bit confusing that I'm going to really explain is the ride or series time range. So this is when the ride will start. And this is, maybe not so interesting for, well, Sunrise Solitude is a good example of that. The range is going to start between the earliest sunrise that you would have the ride start and the latest sunrise. And so this is just a little bit of a pick list for you when you create the ride. You pick the mileage range. This is going to be a ride that might range between 35 and 75 miles, for example. And there's some areas that they can actually do formatted description of the ride itself as well. So what happens, what I didn't show, I kind of clipped off on this slide there, is there's a continue button at the end of this section. And so what you do is you hit the continue button, and that opens up the leader setup section for the ride. And so you walk through, and you'll see above there that's inter-club event information, and the next one is enter leaders. So we've got to look up for the leaders. You can just start typing in last name or number, especially if you remember all your friends' numbers, you can just do it by number. So we'll get a little test with that there. And this is where you can set multiple ride leaders. So if you want to create a set of rides and you want to share that ride leading duty with someone else, you can add multiple leaders to this, and they'll show up, and each of those ride leaders will be able to manage the ride once there's an event set up. So that's really handy for a series of rides where you've got multiple leaders that are shared. Pick the next section. You'll see there I've got the continue button marked there, and so you got to click that to see the next section open up. And so this is a little bit like one of those installation wizards you see when you're putting in new software. As it opens up, it says do this thing, and then it takes you on to the next thing, and then walks you through to the final activity. Once you got that done, and again, this is sort of to try to conserve on time and slides, there's another section similar to this where you'll pick the ride location, and so that's got a little lookup where you can start typing things in, and then it gives you a drop-down list from all of the ride locations that are set up in the ride calendar. And also gives you a little link off so if you need to create a new location. Get through that, you hit continue one more time. There's a last one called the final save. And that's the point where you can either cancel it or submit it. And so once you've hit that submit button, then that's the only thing that's going to cause the ride to get onto the list to be approved for the list of events you can work with. So that's creating an event. And this is kind of the hard part there, basically the part where you're figuring out what's my ride, what are all the ways my ride is going to look. And again, this is something, it's a little easier for ride series to set up, because then you can just describe this whole ride series and then put them all together as individual rides. If you're just doing one ride, it's an extra step. And another thing to note, and I'll try to mention this a couple of times, is that submitting the ride, the event, is not on the 84-hour timer. So in other words, if you're going to submit a ride that's coming up pretty soon, you have to have scheduled your event before that, before the 84-hour time starts up. And so you got to just kind of remember that. Okay, so now we've created an event. You go over to your calendar area and you look at My Events, and then you'll see a list of all of the events that you've set up to schedule. And it'll say either it's approved, or if it's not approved, I can't remember if it says waiting or pending or something like that. But you'll see all of those there, and then you can choose from that list when you're actually going to schedule a ride that's going to occur at a certain time on a certain day at a certain category. And the easy thing to do is all you have to do is hit schedule. And so that'll take your, actually this is the case, this is where you will pick your exact times. No, I'm sorry. So hit schedule. So we look in the list, you hit schedule. Then you get to the next slide here, is where you actually define your ride. So you can see this from here. So you fill out the exact date that you want to use. Conveniently has sunrise and sunset showing up there. And it also notes that you've scheduled, this particular ride was scheduled to only be on Fridays, so it knows that what day is going to match up with the date that you give. And then you can fill out, you can pick the ride leaders that you've gotten and have them set up to be part of this ride. You can make changes to your description. For example, if you're going to want to say, oh, I want to meet in the back of the parking lot or something like that, and you didn't put that in the ride description. Easy enough to do. And the ride mileage you'll set up there to say, okay, this is going to be a 40-mile ride today. And I've said this could be between 31 and 75. And most important, you do have to pick the ride type. So that doesn't take a default from the event schedule. So, and it pops up and says, you haven't filled in a ride type, and so you can't really get through it without doing that. Something else to understand a little bit, and I had to go through this a couple times myself, these two buttons at the bottom, I've noted add another version of this ride or add a new ride. There's two things you can do. So if you're going to schedule a ride and you want it to be an A-B ride and a B ride, but you want it to start at the same time, you actually have to submit two rides for that. So you can't just say, like in the old system, you could say it's going to be A, AB, and that would work out fine. But in this case, you would submit one ride that was the particular distance you want for the AB riders, and then you go back through using that button that's on the left there and say, okay, now this is going to be a B ride, and that's going to be a 40-mile ride with a different leader there. That's probably not going to happen all that often, but sometimes riders, we're having a little more complex rides. The other one, add a new ride. That's what's going to happen most of the time, is that this ride's ready to go. You click that button, ride appears on the calendar instantly. So there's not another step between setting up the scheduling the ride here and actually having it appear on the calendar. Another little thing I didn't get about the calendar thing is that if you want to cancel the ride, any of the ride leaders can do that, and you can do that directly from the calendar. So that's all. That works out all pretty easily to do. And so at that point, you have a ride ready to go.
Doesn't show up as canceled, too.
Yes, it does. Right, and it does show up on the calendar as canceled. So it's really pretty nice visuals for that. Yeah, Hugh?
Okay, you set up your event, and then you put as many rides, or they all have to be at the same place. That's what I heard.
Yeah, he was wondering if the ride that your event has to be at the same place. And you can, actually I don't know. I think you can pick multiple spots for that. I haven't tried it. Okay, well, it says you can't put multiple locations in for a particular event. And then at the time in the event, and then at the time you pick the ride, then you would say where it is. Let me do one more last slide here, and then we'll do some questions. I might clear up a couple of them with the last slide here. So a couple things I thought about this kind of thing, that the series events, the events make series of rides easier to schedule, because you can make one event that covers all of the different rides in your series, like how many days it's going to be, or if you want to have different distances or that sort of thing. And then you can just go click, click, click through and set up all those rides for each day. If you're doing a single ride, it's a little bit more work, because you have to do an event, wait for the event to be approved, and then do the ride. But on the other hand, you're ready to go with the ride. And the ride, again, the system will notify you if you're within the 84-hour window. So that's automatically taken care of, and if you're too late, it'll tell you. And otherwise, you can get it in. And for rides themselves, I noticed one thing: you get an automatic email when the ride goes on the calendar. So that's kind of handy if you're sort of email driven like I am. And then I think I mentioned this before too, any of the ride leaders that you set up on the event can add rides to the calendar and schedule those rides. So that's another good, it makes it a lot easier, I think, for ride leaders to share rides amongst each other. We can cancel a ride, I mentioned it immediately. And then Jim particularly said, for those that you have already scheduled your rides, take a look on the new calendar, make sure they're right, because the team has been doing some stuff by hand to get things together. And then, they said, we're new at this too. Okay, well, I see Pat is cleverly grabbing the other microphone for any questions. So I think between me and the team, we'll see what we can do. So I saw some back. Well, there's Pete first.
Talking to the mic, is it on?
Is it on?
It is on.
Once you've created an event and you've got multiple ride leaders, can you go back and add a ride leader to that list, or are you locked out?
Yes, you can. You can edit the event and make changes to it. In fact, on the ride scheduling page itself, there is an edit and a schedule button, and that'll let you go in and make changes to the event that you set up before.
Also, there are times
Sure
when
about that? The leaders can edit their event?
Yeah, I did try that. But you can at least edit the event that you're about to schedule.
Will it need to be approved again then? After you got it?
Okay, sounds like a no.
You can also, at the ride start, you can enlist a co-leader. They don't have to be on the schedule, but you report at the end when you do the ride stats that person was the co-leader. So you can adopt a co-leader that it doesn't have to be in the original.
Okay, that's great. That's handy. You don't have to have your computer with you and be on the internet to modify a ride at the last minute.
So the rides still have the 84-hour rule, is that correct?
That is correct.
So how long does it take for the event?
Good question. Right, event schedule team?
Same type, except you're putting into that calendar entry, it needs to be approved, so it has to go to the approvers.
So we have 96 hours before the first ride, is that what it is?
84.
I think the question is, how long will it take the approvers to approve the
How
event?
long does it take the approvers to approve your rides now?
But I'm asking about the event.
Okay, so how long does it take the approvers to approve your rides currently in the old calendar? I'm just trying to throw out a scenario. It's gonna be the same thing. To approve.
The question I'm asking is, we need to allow 84 hours to advance to the ride, correct?
Yes, but your event has to be approved before you create the ride.
So how long does it take in the event? Do we need 84 hours to advance? No, during the event, that's what I was.
How long do we need 84 hours? Well, the event has to be submitted before. Whenever the approval, after the approval. So you put an event in, it goes to be approved, it gets approved. Then after it's approved, you can look on your schedule of my events, and you'll see that available to put it in the schedule.
Right, so yeah, I think that the question, I do get the question is that when I submit an event, how long will it be before I see approved on my schedule? I mean, that's like, how long does it typically take us to approve a ride? Is it a day, or is it 12 hours, or?
No, I'm sorry, it doesn't take 12 hours.
So I have to intercede here a little bit. This is definitely an issue that you hit upon, and it's an issue we don't have a perfect answer for right now because the system was dropped on us rather suddenly, and we are working on that situation. So the board is going to be discussing exactly what to do about that. But for right now, what you need to do is you need to give the schedulers or the approvers of the events, give them at least a couple days to approve, at least to be safe before the 84-hour deadline, so that you can post your ride within the deadline. Some accommodation, I think we're going to come up with a policy that accommodates this somehow, but we don't have it yet. It's going to be on the agenda of a coming board meeting, and we will be in touch with the ride leaders to let you know. But it is an issue. You need to allow a little extra time to get your events listed right now, and then you also need to meet the 84-hour deadline to actually post.
My understanding is that if you're a ride leader and you have 5 rides that you want to lead this summer, you can submit all 5 of your rides as an event. They will all sit in your events, and then when you want to put one on the calendar, they're already there. That's when the 84-hour rule kicks in. So go home, think about the rides you want to do this summer, and put them in your event calendar. Another thing, this whole program here is going to be available to all the ride leaders. We're going to have a link to this, so you can go back and go through this this talk here, and we're also going to do some little mini slides to help folks that are having problems with how the process works. So we're gonna back you up with some additional training on this. Other questions?
If you have an event, it's not on the schedule.
That's correct.
Correct? So what's the point of putting in a summer's worth of rides if you have to go back and put it on the calendar? And then this 84-hour rule is more like 106 or whatever. It just seems like we're making it like pretty difficult to get a ride on the calendar.
I think from the practice that I had, and then what Jim and Kate and I had done, it really isn't quite as hard as it looks there. You know, I think the main thing, like Pete said, is we have a little thing, is like, when is the event approved? But on the other hand, when you pick your ride, it goes on the calendar instantly then, so you don't have to wait for an approval time for your ride itself.
It's different. That's not what we just heard.
Okay.
We just heard 2 84-hour approval.
No, I think that might have been some talk with 84, right, but that isn't the problem.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's assume that I have 3 rides that I like to lead, but I don't want to do them necessarily every week. and then I pick each week which one I want to put in.
Exactly.
And if I have, apparently, I may be wrong here, I get a series, so I put every one of these in as a series. Then later on, I get the time when a particular one goes on. So there's no reason to put one in as a single ride. You might ever want to redo it.
That's right, yeah, so if you ever plan on repeating a ride in there, building an event is the way to go. Saves you a couple steps.
If I'm going to run it every week in July, then do I have to go into the ride part of it and schedule week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4?
You do have to go and schedule them individually, but it kind of walks you through it in that from your event
So
list.
you get the event approved once, and you would be foolish not to do it as a series.
Exactly. Well, I don't know, foolish, if you really don't think you're going to do more than one, but if you think you're going to do more than one, it makes a lot of sense to make an event out of it.
So it is. And then when you decide I want to do the White Bear Lake rides, next week I put it on there. Then I wait 2 weeks and I say, let's do the Roseville ride. And I put it in. And the time limit only applies to the scheduling of the ride, not the scheduling of the event, which you did.
Right, that's already done. And so if you want to do that Roseville ride 84 hours ahead of time, but you don't have to wait for any approval at all at that point.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Although I can see the advantage to this for people who are very organized, there's some of us who prefer a more spontaneous fashion of organizing a ride. Like, oh my God, it's the middle of February and 60 degrees. I had no time for a ride, but let's get one in. It seems that it will make that much harder. So I hope that, first of all, that ride approvals can be rapid, and second of all, that the communication can be better. But actually, my question has something to do with something else. It sounds like there's no approval process for the ride. So during a popular period of time, what's to prevent people from accidentally scheduling 2 rides meeting from the same place?
That's a really good question.
Well, I don't want to speak for anybody about what I think they're going to be doing, but I think maybe our ride approvers are going to be watching the postings. And they do have, if something gets posted that is not copacetic, shall we say, for any reason, if it conflicts, they can actually, they have the power to delete that ride and contact the ride leader who posted it and let them know that they deleted it because of this reason.
Do they delete it or suspend it? Because it may get cleared up, whatever the confusion is.
If it gets cleared up, then it can be rescheduled.
So we'd encourage everybody to look at the schedule to make sure that there's not already a ride posted for the time and the location. And think ahead, as best as you can, get your events in there so that you can post them when you want to leave your ride.
So this is one of the bullet points on my presentation coming up later, is that this new system is going to require a lot more attention to detail from our ride leaders, and we're going to depend upon our ride leaders to do their own editing, make sure that all the system isn't going to let you post something without critical detail, but fine detail, it's all up to you to make sure it gets done right, so because nobody's going to be following up on you like we have in the past. And but I'm sure you can all rise to the occasion. We do have, change is always difficult, and this is probably one of the more difficult changes that's come along, in my view, because we've all been accustomed to doing things the way we've always done them, and a lot of us are getting older, and change is more difficult too. But I was able to go in and, without reading the instructions, schedule or make my events and schedule my rides. It's not rocket science, and when you go home and spend a little time with it, it's going to become familiar, and it won't be too long before you're all whizzes at it.
I might note too before the questions that Jim and I at least have been kind of keeping up a list of things that we see in the program that we'd like some modifications or changes. And I can see actually a piece of software that says, there's already a ride scheduled on this day. So that would go on the list of things that we would think that could possibly be changed.
Why don't you, this guy
So if I could ask a quick question, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out really the from a global perspective. Let's try this. So I'm still trying to figure out really absorb the difference between an event and a ride. I suspect I'll figure it out a little bit more when I play with the software. But one question: why not just schedule a recurring event for every day from now until, let's say, November? And that way you've got your event approved and you can just film the rides later on. Although that would probably be out.
Well, it's kind of create a second kind of, a third kind of thing in there, so the recurring event, but that does make sense. And unfortunately, I can tell you from my history as a software designer and builder, I can understand from a software point of view why this was done. I mean, there's maybe other user-friendlier ways to have implemented the same kind of thing.
I just want to remind everybody, last year we rolled out a new ride stats, and you all are entering your own rides, and we were a little nervous about how that was going to go. You did wonderful. People love it, so I think we're going to incorporate this with a little bit of trial and error. And it's brand new, but I think it's going to be a really good positive for the club and for the leaders.
The person with the given mic has got.
I don't know if it will be addressed later, but is there any change in the cancellation policy now that the cancellation is going to appear on the calendar? Do ride leaders still have to appear at the ride?
So the policy will still be the same for cancellations.
I'm going to be touching on that.
Pete's going to talk about that
Or
too.
no?
Okay, great.
We'll talk about that.
So there's one up here on the seat. Yeah, it's good. That's
You
fine.
gonna stay on military time?
I would like to switch that.
Doesn't sound like it's on, is it on?
Say again?
You said that you can do a search by keyword, right?
Right.
So one of the keywords would be the name of the leader. So if somebody wants to go on all the rides by that leader, they could do a search by the leader's name.
I believe that will work, yes. And also make it easier, by the way, like while we're having to figure out did somebody schedule a ride already on my day, that makes it easy to look, because you can search by location on the calendar and see if anything shows up on your day too.
This is an administration question. Since some of us are Pete's contemporary or older, is there a way to dim down these front lights so we can see the screen better?
Right behind you, Jim.
Yeah, there you go.
You want your machine back yet?
All of them except the ones we want to take to go down.
There's another dimmer.
How about that?
We're passing the mic for questions for those folks that can't attend the forum so that they can hear what the questions are. So we appreciate you using the mic so everybody can hear.
But it sounds like
I
this
saw
mic is the
Mark
one that's
first.
recording.
Well, let me go to live. He explains it. I'll do that.
Gordon, is it possible to bring up a ride and run through it, create an event, and schedule the ride? I think that might make things a little more clear.
I don't think we're hooked up to the internet here.
We don't have time.
Pete says we don't have time, which is true. Probably used my half an hour too already.
We have a few more minutes for questions, and we'll have questions at the end, too.
Uh-oh.
Help me understand the rationale for continuing the 84-hour rule for a ride posting. I understand the event thing, but now we've got an event, I've got my portfolio, my catalog put together, I've got my Tour de Tonka ride set up, and I'm going to run it this season, blah, blah. Now I want to go post it. Why do I have to still wait 84 hours for the ride?
I'm glad I'm not answering that one.
I don't have an answer anybody's going to like, but at this point in time, it's, without saying who or why or what, it's a little bit of a political issue. We have some things to resolve about how things work in the club and other areas. I know this is really beating around the bush. I should be a politician, I guess. We are going to be considering reducing that 84 hours. And that's all I can say. It's going to be considered, and I for one, believe that it needs to be reduced. And But we're ushering in a brand new system, and we haven't found all the bugs yet. You guys are going to be helping us find the bugs. And once we get our feet on the ground with this new system, I hope that my desire to reduce that deadline significantly. But we can't reduce it too significantly because we have to populate our schedule. If we let you schedule a ride because this new system would maybe allow it 8 hours before the event, there wouldn't be anything on our schedule in a lot of cases until just the last minute. And you can't do that because people need to plan their lives. They're not going to come and do your ride because they've already planned on doing something else. So we have to look for that ideal time. And right now, 84 hours is probably not ideal. It was predicated on the approval process. And I'm hoping that we can reduce the time significantly to accommodate the new system and yet still keep the schedule populated and try to keep everybody happy with how things should work. So that's all I can say at this time. Just stay tuned. We're working on it, and be patient. And yeah, we're dependent on you.
Oops. Clarice, you have a question? I think Clarice is going to get the last question, and we'll have time at the end of the whole forum.
Okay, I'm sitting at my computer, hopelessly confused in my living room all by myself with my cat prancing across my keys. Is there a phone number that I can call for an emergency question?
Pat, raise your side up again.
1998.
I want to see that cat video.
Thank you guys for your patience with this.
Your friendly neighborhood board member, Clarice, and it is on the newsletter. Their phone numbers or contacts are on there. So. No emails. Okay. Pete says it's safe from that.
We'll have some follow-up on the official Ride Leader Forum in the next day or so. But I'd really like to thank Gordon and Lyle and Jim Pedersen and Kate and Edward, our technology committee. Did I miss somebody? If I did, I apologize. They have been working really hard to make this work, and I think Gordon's done a great job of explaining it, and believe me, we will get through this. So big thanks to the technology committee.
And we only wish Jim and Kate were here to enjoy this beautiful weather with us instead of traveling around in Colorado and California where they are. All right, so now to talk about things that will happen on these rides that we have finally scheduled, we've got Paul.
Thank you. The first slide I got had George Blank's name on it as well, because he's on the safety committee, but they've eliminated his name on the slide, so I guess I really don't have to say that anymore.
Closer to your face.
What I'm going to do is show you a series of slides that are typical of accidents that have occurred in the last 4 years on club rides. Then I'm going to give a suggestion on the slide of how you can correct that situation. And then I want you to think about other ways that that accident could be prevented. Just do it on your own so you have some idea of how you might get around to correct that situation. And then I hope you remember these situations and think about on your ride briefing that you maybe raise some of these occasionally as a typical example of something that would happen and what to do to avoid it. And do that periodically during the summer when you are leading rides. The first scenario, which is on the screen there, a rider falls after hitting or attempting to avoid a pothole, glass, debris, or other road hazards. And the solution there is a way to avoid it. Always be aware of your surroundings and the road surface conditions when riding. And just think of your own, on your own, of ways that you might be able to avoid that type of an accident. Jeff, next slide. The next one is where a rider ahead unexpectedly turns, slows down, or stops and the following rider hits the rider and falls. One of the most typical accidents we have in the club. The rider ahead should call out and give hand signals as to what he is going to be doing, whether it's a turn or a stop or a slowing down. This happens quite frequently when a rider falls upon riding into mud, sand, gravel, or wet leaves. Always be prepared to brake and slow down when road conditions change. One thing that's helpful here is also maybe the riders ahead can see the conditions and call those out so riders behind have some advance warning. Next one. A rider hits a parked car, a mailbox, that happened just recently, or a road sign and falls. Most of these accidents happen along the side of the road, so don't ride too close to the edge and keep a lookout for obstructions. One of the situations I found occasionally, some of the mailboxes stick out a little further than the series of them. One may be out 2 or 3 feet further, and that sometimes is something you don't realize until you actually hit it. This is a little more complicated. This is a situation where a rider was making a left turn in a club ride. Another rider passed on her right and then came in front of her, causing her to hit the back of that bike, and that person fell. Again, the solution is be cautious and communicate when mixing with other riders. In this situation also, the rider behind might call out that the bike is passing on the right. Obviously, we don't expect that to happen, so it is somewhat unusual, and it'd be helpful if you call that out so a rider ahead knows what's happening. Rider had both hands on the handlebars, lost control and fell. Don't do this. You may think as you see on the Tour de France, the guys in the peloton have their hands up, they're eating candy bars or whatever. You know, most of us aren't that type of rider. Keep your hands, or at least one hand, on the handlebars. And finally, this is a situation where the computer sensor on the front wheel was clicking the spokes. They tried to correct that with their foot, and the foot got caught in the wheel and the rider fell. Really don't do this. You can get off your bike and fix that situation, or just deal with the click and keep riding.
Is that a TCBC rider that did that?
All of these are situations where TCBC riders were involved. So, and again, use hand signals and call out what you're doing. That's a great way to make sure the riders behind you can ride safely and know what's happening in front of them. And I'll close with my normal saying, as I use in my articles, ride smart, ride safe.
You're not going to join me in your nice-looking jersey?
And matching cap.
I think we all look good in our jerseys. Also want to mention that Katie Engel is still a ride liaison, a leader liaison, but she is fortunately in Scottsdale and not with us tonight. So what we're going to cover as leader liaisons is talk a little bit about a couple new and revised policies, touch on risk management, except it's going to be me instead of Pete talking risk management this time. We'll get through it real quick. And then Pete's going to talk about ride submissions and some reminders for the leaders. New and revised policies. You guys have all gotten notice. Whoop. I need my techie guy here. Techie. Thank you. You've all received notice on the official ride leaders forum about both of these. Mountain bike rides this year. TCBC members only can attend mountain bike rides, and everyone must sign a waiver at each ride. This is a requirement from LAB. This isn't something that the board or the leader liaisons thought of. It's an LAB requirement, and those are the rules that you worked with last year, so just a reminder. And night rides, we've developed new categories for night rides. They're all in the ride key. So if you want to put in a night ride or you're on a night ride, just go to the go to the website and look at the categories for night rides. So I think you've all read about that in the past. Risk management, I'm going to just do a summary of this. You're all required to keep your membership current, so renew early. If you're not a current leader with your membership and you want to lead a ride, none of the people on your ride will get their mileage tracked. So I think everybody's pretty good about this, but it's just a reminder. You need to do a ride briefing on all your rides. And can we go to that next slide and then go back to this one? Yeah, we do have the ride briefing cards. There's some new ones. If you've lost yours or whatever, we have them. The second highlight here, what's highlighted here is really what we want you to make sure you say on all your rides. You can go through whatever you want on the ride briefing card, but we want everybody to highlight this. It's kind of a summary of our policies and a summary of what we do as a club. Remind riders that on all TCBC rides, all are expected to ride safely, obey traffic laws, share the roads and trails, and be helpful to and responsible for one another. If you want to paraphrase that, that's fine, but we do want you to be saying that in your ride briefings. Thank you. As you know, we, the leaders of TCBC, we represent the club, and we must be conscientious with our comments and actions. You, ride leaders, you're responsible for keeping your contact information current. So if you have a new email address, if you have a new phone number, if you have a new mailing address, please see Scott and Mary in the front and make sure that the database gets updated with your information. If you haven't been receiving e-news or if you haven't gotten any of the official ride leader postings, find out why, and it could be because something's changed with your contact information. And ride leaders are responsible for reviewing the ride leader content on the website. Thank you. Pete.
Thank you, Pat. I just want to make a note about this ride briefing card. This it says 2018 on there, but it is exactly the same as 2017. So if you need another one, if you lost yours, you're dog-gated or something, we're going to have them afterwards that you can pick up another ride briefing card. But we definitely want you to have one of those and use it at every ride, please. So, go to the next one, Jeff. So here we already talked about the 48-hour thing, so maybe I don't have to touch on it too much more. But right now, the 48 hours ends April 30th, and as scheduled, it's going to go to 84 hours on May 1st, because the weather's supposed to be a lot better then. And the deadline may change once bugs in the new ride calendar are fixed. And the deadline pertains to ride submissions, not events set up. So as you all are aware of that, I won't belabor that anymore, or any longer. So with the new ride calendar, ride leaders are going to have a lot more responsibility for the accuracy and completeness of the posted rides. So it's just like, once you put it in, read it the second time and then read it the third time. I try to do that with all the posts I do on the, especially on the ride leader official forums. And I found some really terrible errors the third time. So it really pays to look at it 2 or 3 times before you post it. Okay. And as far as ride submissions go, we need more ride series in the club. Those are really popular, and I know they're an awful lot of work and they take a lot of dedication. But such things as the Pink Express, the TGIF, and I hear that maybe the Gears, Tears, and Fears might come back. And rides like that occur every week, people really learn to depend on them, and so I hope that some of you will start some series this summer. Some of our new ride leaders might start some series. You need to post early for better participation. You can't
expect people to show up at the last minute, except maybe those people you know, that your friends show up. But the whole idea of this club is to let everybody in the club know that a ride is occurring, not just a few people. So posting rides earlier the better. It ensures better participation. You can promote your rides. We like to see a lot more ride promotion in our newsletters if you have out-of-town rides or outreach rides. You can use the e-news for last minute or middle of the month advertising of your ride, the newsletter, and on the forum. That works too. And consider reviving some classic TCBC rides for the 25th anniversary. I shouldn't say this publicly because that means I really have to do it. But I'm planning on reviving the Summer Solstice Metric Century and also the Scandia Scamper ride. Those two rides that I've led many, many times in years past, which were quite popular. So I hope some of the rest of you will do that too. So the atlases are out here for you to peruse, but please don't take those because some of them are very rare editions now, and I think they belong to. They're not to be taken, but you can put a little bookmark in there and ask for a copy. There's a sign-up sheet. Pat's got a sign-up sheet there. Okay. Next slide. So ride cancellations. Now, it's changed on as far as you can cancel a ride right on the schedule. Real easily, you just, as you're the leader, you can just cancel it. And everybody will know, everybody that looks at the schedule or at their phone or whatever before they go to the ride or when they're on the way to the ride, if you've canceled the ride, they should know that. And eventually, we hope that most people will take responsibility themselves for checking before they go to the ride start to make sure that the ride is still on. But you really need to consider limiting the use of the cancellation. Just a second. Because a lot of times, I hate to say this in front of Jeff, but weathermen are wrong. and they say it's going to rain tomorrow, but it may not be as bad as what they said, and it may not rain where you're going to be. Sometimes these systems move around, so you really need to wait until close to the moment, just a few hours sometimes before a ride. And then somebody may show up at the ride, another ride leader who likes to ride in the rain and would like to take your ride over. So, and there are people that are going to come and ride anyway, no matter what the situation. And so unless you have a really, really good solid reason for canceling it ahead of time, I advise trying to find another leader. You can advertise on the forum for another leader. And if somebody takes over your ride with the new system, they'll get credit for it when they enter the ride. They don't have to be listed in the schedule to get credit for it. Let's see, and so also on the new schedule, there's a button to click for delaying the start of the ride. And I think that goes to the forum, and that's how you still can delay the start of the ride. But ride leaders definitely still will need to go to most rides at the start, especially on a last-minute cancellation. With the new system, you could probably cancel several days ahead of time if you wanted for some reason, and maybe. I hate to qualify this at all. I think we need to have that policy that you need to go because somebody's going to show up at the ride, and you need to go yourself or send somebody or get a substitute leader. And the only exceptions for that rule are out-of-town rides and winter rides. And in both of those cases, you need to give a phone number so people can check and make a statement that you have to check before you go to the start to see if the ride is still on. So,
cancel on the calendar, will it send to the forum?
if you cancel on the schedule, it doesn't go to the forum.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, so you have to also post on the forum, and then, but that's the official cancellation. If you cancel on the, once you cancel a ride on the schedule, you can't, nobody can run it, nobody can lead it. Just like in the old days when they cancel a ride. So then we have also under Ride Leader Resources, oops, another question. Yes, Bonnie. Stand up and talk loud, please.
How far out of town is
53 miles.
The reason I ask is because there were several people that showed up on a ride last year that was canceled that nobody knew was canceled, and the leader never came. So we didn't, nobody got, I mean, you know.
So
what does that mean? What's out of town?
I think I say that in the, there's a statement in the ride cancellation policy. It's in the, if it's outside of the greater metropolitan area. And that's open to interpretation, but I would say.
Seven County Metro?
Yes. How's that? 7 County Metro, if it's outside. Okay, another question back there.
If I want to delay a ride, how soon should I do that? Is there a guideline, like do it at least 2 hours at a time?
Repeat the question.
Yes, if he wants to delay a ride start, how soon should he do it? Obviously, if you did it at 8 o'clock in the morning and the ride starts at 9, that wouldn't work. We don't have a definite guideline, but I would say if you're going to delay the ride, you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you see that your 10 o'clock ride is going to be in the middle of a big rainstorm, that would be appropriate to post on the forum then that it's going to be delayed. It probably would be good to go to the ride start and wait for anybody who shows up who didn't read that. So you have to be thinking about the people that are going to be looking at the schedule, coming to the ride start. If you delayed it the night before, that's given sufficient time. But if it got down to 1 to 2 hours, I'd say you need to probably go there. And you can still delay it. And some people will catch that.
What's the maximum delay allowed?
I would say that the maximum delay, we don't have a rule. So, it's the same day. That's, if it's the next day, it would be rescheduled, so it would be the same day. So I do have to keep moving because we have a really tight schedule here. So the last point on this slide is that I would like you to review and use the list of recommendations for improving ride quality and the ride listing checklist. The ride listing checklist isn't going to come up automatically anymore, but both of these items were put together by a committee who reviewed how we can make our bike club friendlier and how we can do a better job of listing our rides so people understand what they're getting into. And I would like everybody to review those. And next slide. That also ties right in with the next point. Almost everything you need to know about TCBC and leading rides is on the TCBC website. You need to go through all those buttons at the top of the home page. And you all, as ride leaders, need to understand what's in there, what's under each one. Go as deep as you can and see what's in there so that you understand, when you have a question, you can, in most cases, find the answer on your own. And so it's your job to get familiar with the website. Okay? And you need to be able to log into the website to see the ride leader information. I think you all pretty much know that. And to post to the forum, you need to log into the website. And if you're having problems with that, you can contact the leader liaisons, or Jim Pedersen's been very patient and helpful in helping people figure it out. It is a little difficult to understand sometimes, and some people do have difficulty with it. But if you're having a problem, pursue it, and we'll help you out. And we already said this, to maintain your membership and contact information. If you lead rides and your membership is expired, there's no insurance on your ride. And anybody who came on your ride doesn't get mileage credit for it. So there will be some very unhappy people that want to talk with you about that. And if you have an accident victim, we want that person, you as ride leader to encourage and assist that person to file the American Specialties occurrence report. That's the report that goes. That's the document that goes to the insurance company for the accident. And we also want you to encourage them to fill out the TCB accident survey. And both of these forms are on the website. And actually, just today, I'm moving the insurance report occurrence form is going to be in 2 spots now. It's going to be available now, not just to ride leaders, but it's going to be available to members under Understanding TCBC Insurance. That's under resources. And so members who've had an accident, if you've heard about it, you could tell them to go to the website and download that form and fill it out and email it to you or fax it to you or mail it to you so you can sign it and send it in. It has to be a TCBC leader, preferably the leader that led the ride, or an officer of the club to sign the insurance report before it gets sent in. So, let's see what's next here. Reminders, the 2018 blackout dates are all club rides on May 26th and September 1st, and the Watermelon Ride on July 4th. And those are the only 3 blackout dates that we have. And you can lead rides to those events, but you can't schedule any other rides during that day. Hugh?
On 4th of July, there's still night rides allowed to go, fireworks, things like that?
Yes, after 3 p.m., anything after 3 p.m. is legitimate. Copying and mailing expenses, just a reminder that we don't pay for home printer ink and paper stuff, and we pay 10 cents a copy for anything that you print on your home printer. And it's honesty, it's an honor system, and you keep track of that, and you can send in the bill in October. And if you have, we'd like to have receipts for everything that you got done at Kinko's or any place else, and try to limit very expensive copies. Shop around, see if you can find the best deal, so it doesn't get out of hand cost-wise. And then ride fees, we want you to submit those by October 15th, or whenever you have $30 or more, you can send it into the treasurer. And the non-member adults still pay $3 for every ride, but we made it clear that riders under 18, minors, ride for free. So we don't charge, family shows up for a ride, we don't charge them for their children.
Do they sign a waiver?
The parents, well, if they're members, we assume they've signed a waiver, but no, I think when the minor shows up for the ride, you'll have to sign a waiver for the minor.
The minor will have to
sign. The minor will have to sign, yeah.
No, I think the parent signs the waiver.
The parent signs the waiver. The parent or the guardian. Whoever's we require that minors have a guardian. And we're not trying to question whether that's a legal guardian or what, but we need a responsible adult for minors on the ride. So there are some new resources for leaders. There's the Minnesota Bike Handbook, which we've been giving, all the new leaders got one at leader training, and we have quite a few of those. We'd like you to take one. It really covers all the laws and safety about bicycling in Minnesota. It's a really well-written handbook. And get yourself a copy of them, and take one with you, or take several with you to hand out at your rides to especially new members, or anybody who you think needs some re-education about how to ride legally. You'd probably need the whole case, though. But,
there's a new edition that will come out this year sometime.
well, and then Paul says there's a new edition of that will be coming out this year. So please help us unload the old edition. Yeah, all the members get one in the mail. It's really,
Last year.
it really is a good manual. It's done well. And now we have some business cards. So we'd like you all to take some business cards, and these are different from the ones we've done in the past. You can put, if you want, your name and your email address on it. So you can hand them out. It says you're a ride leader, and they can get in touch. They can email and get in touch with you if you have questions about joining TCBC or coming on rides. And it'd be really nice. So take some of them, and if you go to a health club, start handing them out to people who you think might be interested, or if you, any kind of groups that and friends that you think would be interested in joining the club. And on the back of that, we list the benefits of joining the club. So that we'd like to get some feedback from you also on how helpful you thought those were. So what else is there? Oh, here's going back to the 1950s, and Pat wanted me to point out that she wasn't even born then, and I was. This is a police safety manual. It's really kind of more. It's not morbid, but it's yeah. It's great to be alive. Except that then the next slide is screeching brakes. Tommy is crippled for life. This would put the fear of God in you about even bicycling, you know. As Chuck nears the tracks, something else was on his mind, and he got eaten by a train. And Elmer's bike crumpled under the truck. Another healthy boy is crippled for life. And Bob's twisted the handlebar and threw them both. Mike will have to spend a month in the hospital. And here's an early draft from the early 1990s of our ride sign-in sheet. And it says that safety helmets are recommended. That's all we said is they were recommended. And we eventually made them mandatory. And now here today is a list of our safety recommendations. They've increased immensely, and we have a lot more very helpful safety tips for people, which actually is fulfilling our 501c3 mission, is to educate people not just how to bike, but how to bike safely. Okay, let's see. Now we have Mike Curis, who's going to present the 25th anniversary jersey.
Hello, everyone. Looks like we're going to have lovely winter weather this weekend. I'd like to thank everybody that I was. Well, like this.
There you go.
I'd like to show everybody who was on our committee and thank them all for their hard work and diligence, and hopefully we're all still friends. So we're going to go through it's a jersey from 2001. And actually it was around that time, but I didn't buy that one because I didn't like it. This is our new 25th anniversary jersey, both in short and long sleeve. It's got nice, the green is actually kind of looks pale here. It's actually a very bright neon green. And then we also have some arm warmers. We're going to be offering a lot of accessories here. So you go to the next one.
So Mike, it's kind of the same thing is happening here that happened at the banquet. It's coming up much darker than it is. Because if you see these pictures on your laptop, instead of up here on the screen, that is a much lighter blue than it's not showing up.
Yeah, it's not black.
It's not black. It's not black. It looks black from down here, though.
Yeah. And then we have a lightweight jacket. The purpose of that was to have a jacket you could scrunch up, stick in your back pocket, as well as a lightweight vest. Then we're also going to offer shorts and socks, and then a cycling cap. And last but not least, I've managed to source a fleece jacket. So all of these will be in a store. We're getting them from Mount Bora.
And we're going to have a storefront like we did with the last jersey. And those details have yet to be worked out because there's a couple items that we haven't quite finalized yet. And until they finalize the design on those, we can't open the store yet. So that'll be coming up shortly, and all that information will be put on the website when it does occur. So there's a lot of different things that you can get through the store. And this year, the Ride Leaders gift is $30 off of any one of those. Okay. Any questions?
How will that be communicated, the Ride Leader gift? How do you find it?
Well, I have all their emails, so I'll have to do that.
What was the question? Repeat the question, please.
I didn't hear the question.
Tell them how they apply their.
What's going to happen for your Ride Leaders gift is we're going to send you a coupon code that can be used one time, and Mount Bora will know who you are so that it can be used on that, and they just bill us back for it. And so it makes it easy to get them.
You might want to mention that it's for the Ride Leaders that qualify for that.
That's Ride Leaders that qualify with four or more rides, as well as some key volunteers.
Last year or this year?
Last year. It'll be for sale shortly, so you probably haven't read, a lot of us haven't read 4 rides yet, so. Any others?
Yeah. Is there going to be a place to go try them on?
No.
So is the sizing going to be different than last year?
What we were told by Mount Bora is that if you follow their sizing chart, that they guarantee the fit. And we are offering 2 different jerseys. It will be both a race fit and a club fit like we did last time. Not all of us like wearing a race fit, me in particular. So, but they do guarantee that it will fit you if you follow their sizing chart. And they've been doing it for a long time. Any others?
Mike, where's the sizing chart?
It will be posted along on their on the storefront. We did that last time too with the sizing chart on podium wears, so how to size it.
Is there a limited quantity of these so that you have to get your order in by a certain date or something?
Okay. The question is there a limited quantity? No, the reason we went to the storefront is, first off, in the past, before the podium wear jersey, the club would buy a bunch of jerseys and then hope to sell them. We switched last time to a storefront where it's an online order thing, and they will get the orders and make it. One thing I'd like to point out, they do have a 5-item minimum. So say if you want a pair of socks, you have to wait until 4 other people order socks so that you can get them. But I think given how inexpensive the socks are, that there'll probably be quite a few. But I just thought I'd point that out, that that's their policy on that. Any others? Okay. Next slide. You can keep going. They can see me. Okay, we have some volunteer needs coming up. We're going to, again, this year at the North Star Bicycle Festival on June 13th, 15th, and 17th. So that would be Wednesday in St. Paul, Friday in Minneapolis, and Sunday in Stillwater. So we have our booth up, and we'll be talking to people who are down there to look at the races to try to convince them to join. Also, the North Star Bicycle Festival would be appreciative if somebody could work for them, and that information will be coming out in the new newsletter that's coming out. We also have the watermelon ride coming up, and we'll be putting the sign-up sheets on the website here shortly for that. It should be a good one this year. It's on Wednesday, so hopefully we'll get nice weather and a lot of people show up. And then I have one other thing that just came up. We got invited to employee fair. It's a health fair, and I've been doing some of these in the past, but Cargill asked us to come give a talk to theirs or put a booth up. So what I would like is, this is one way of talking to people that might share a common interest in bicycling. So if, and not all of us are working anymore, but those of you that are, if you know that your company is going to have a health fair, try to find out some information on it and send it to me so I can contact them and see if we can have a booth up at the health fair. It's one way of getting more members to the club. Hopefully some younger members. Well, no, yeah, like I said, I'm retired. So. Okay. Well, you know, my thought is that when you're in your 20s, you're busy doing other things. Then when you're in your 30s, you're hauling your kids everywhere for soccer practice and whatnot. So by the time you're in your 40s, they're probably graduated by then. So, any questions?
Thank you for your work.
Mr. Bell.
Hello, bikers. There's someone who is, thank you for moving on to that next slide. Thank you, Jeff. That was someone who was deciding what to say or do next. And yes, look at that, 25 years. There is our actual issue from April '93 that our bike club was approved, and we have been doing more history stuff in the last few issues and probably will continue to do that this year. As Pete mentioned, yes, we have a great website, have a forum, we have e-news, we have emails, but we've still got the newsletter. So we encourage people to write for it, whether it's promoting something that's upcoming or recapping something that has already happened. We appreciate that. And we always have room. We've got plenty of ads, which is great. So we need to have plenty of articles too, and some pictures, right, Steve? And I will tell you, we have an experienced long-distance tourer who's starting a series of articles with us in the next issue, and we're just finishing up the next issue. So I want to encourage people to submit stuff if you want to. Even if you're not a great writer, hey, we can work with that. And besides, everybody is a great writer. Okay, thank you, Jeff. You're anticipating me very well. One other thing I'm involved with, at least half of this, Pete Hawkins and I are again planning the All Club Ride for Saturday, May 26th. This year it's going to be starting at Turtle Lake again, where we started a few years ago, which is in Shoreview, and we'll be doing the usual basically 20, 30, 50, and 63-mile rides. I like waiting for better weather to check out the roads, and I haven't been able to do that yet, so that's going to happen pretty soon, but that is what we're going to do, and I'm happy to say the May 26th ride is already on the calendar. Thanks to Pete's advice. Thank you. And Tom, do you want to say anything about the September 1 that's going to be out of Minnetonka again, I assume, and pretty much the same this year as in the past? Tom does not know. That's okay. We will assume it will be pretty much the same as last year, because there's plenty of time to work on that, and again, a number of different mileage routes. So I think not yet. It may be my biggest privilege of the evening. It may not, but please, could we have our map maker extraordinaire? Come on up, Pete. Thank you.
Hello. I get to speak about the sponsorship committee, but first of all, I came across that cartoon from way back. That was part of the 1,000-mile club recipients prize list, and that's pretty much the way it looked. Anyway, move on to the sponsorship. Sponsorship committee. The people that are on it, the only one I've seen here tonight is Mary Dirks, and I'm not sure if Ginny Halloran's here tonight also. There she is. Okay. Those are the only two that are in town right now. Oh, Nancy's here. Good. I missed her too. Sorry. Anyway, they've been very busy, and they've keep the newsletter running and gets our sponsors out there for us. So we really appreciate all their work in doing that. One of the things that we could do for our sponsors, especially the bike shops, is if on the bike ride you lead, you might go by one of their shops, consider starting your ride there rather than just riding by. They really like to have the additional traffic through their store and to know that our bike club appreciates their sponsorship. So that's one of the things that I'd like to mention and suggest that you do as a ride leader. The Minnesota Ironman, I want to say about, is it's not happening this year. You know that. But Doug Nelson and I are putting in not the Minnesota Ironman bike ride. So it's going to be on the Ironman Sunday. It'll be out in the Buffalo vicinity, and we've been nailing down, what the road's going to be. It's going to be pretty close to one of the routes that we used to use. So that's one of the old throwback rides that was mentioned earlier. And this might be one of the first ones we get to do with that. I've been looking at my stuff too, so I might have a couple in there from way back when. Those are our sponsors. Many of the bike shops give discounts to us. So let them know that you're a TCBC member when you're in there buying a new jersey or some biking gear, and they will take care of you. Coming up next will be Bob Brown, a professor at Bicycle U.
Thank you. Looks like the professor needs a makeover. The theme this year for Bike U was outreach, and to that purpose we convened a group of people to get together and consider ideas of how we might expand our bicycling program out to a broader mix of people. There were 3 advertised meetings. The advertising was bad and attendance was poor. But we did have a total of 9 people that participated in the 3 meetings. The first was a brainstorm meeting in which ideas were put forth and written on a whiteboard in red. And the second one was a meeting to evaluate the brainstorm ideas and pare the list down a little. And the third one was to organize and prioritize the ideas. If we can get the next slide. After these advertised meetings, a coalition of the willing went forth and did some additional work. There were 9 outside organizations that were contacted, and multiple meetings were held to prepare a 2-page report for the TCBC board. And then we attended 2 TC board meetings. And going on to the next slide, if this was too exciting for you so far, it slows down. We presented, it was 2 pages long and compact and concise, but it was quite a bit of information in the report. But there were 4 main topic ideas that I'd want to tell you about here. One has to do with partnering with other organizations to develop and advertise rides. And this would involve bike shops, health clubs, possibly employee wellness programs. The idea being you go forth to them and tell them you're interested in whether or not they have some people that might like to ride bicycle. And if so, do they have some way to contact these people? And if we were to, what type of ride do you think they'd want to do? And if we were to do a ride, can you advertise this ride for us? And we would advertise it on the website. And hopefully have some riders from that organization. And then another idea was to do some surveys and data research with the members to get some better idea of who we've got in the club, where they live, where in relation to where the rides are. If we got people living over here and no rides, or rides over here and not many people living there, what types of rides they like to do. and how we can better maybe tailor what we do to them, informing the ride leaders, hey, here's what we found, and here are some ideas on where and what kind of rides you might want to do. Some marketing ideas. One of them was putting newspaper articles in the newspaper and community publications about our club, and I thought that was a good one. Another one was taking our welcome message and adding a little bit more to it to explain a little bit more about our club, and then having some embedded things where people right in the welcome message could click on things that might be of interest to a new member or somebody who is considering joining. And then we had multiple suggestions on ways to prove rides, and I'm not going to go through those. I'm going to mention one that Pete mentioned, the idea of having these same day, same time, same route every week rides. They seem to be the most popular kinds of rides. And one of the drawbacks of that is, you know, the responsibility of having it. But encouraging, I think, some consortiums of people or coalitions of the willing to work together and try and put more of those out would be a good idea. But at any rate, the ideas are presently under consideration of the board. There's a couple of us that are going to be attending board meetings, myself and Dan Miller, and Mark, I always have trouble pronouncing his name, Thorns Joe, I guess is correct, but I'm not sure. Is that right? Did I get it? Okay. And we're going to be working on some of these, but we did get permission from the board to try some partnering rides. One of the deals that is to try and jumpstart it by giving members of the organization you're partnering with a free ride the first 3 times you do it. So we're going to be trying to do that. Dan Miller is going to be kind of in charge of that. And then with respect to surveys, we're going to start with trying a survey to members who have chosen not to renew to see what they have to say about why they didn't. Other possible surveys would be new members or members who aren't participating very much. At any rate, that's what Bike U did. Bike U is over, but there are interested parties who are still going to be working with the board to consider the various ideas that were contained in our report. So stay tuned, but now it's time to change the channel. Who's up next? Announcements. I don't know. Who is that? P? Thank you.
I want to thank Bob Brown for taking this initiative. I think he's done an outstanding job.
So I guess first I'm going to ask for announcements. Does anybody in the audience have an announcement that they want to make to the whole group of ride leaders? Oh, Bob.
Can I come up there?
Yeah, yep. The microphone. Well, the microphone's coming at you there.
What do you want?
Okay.
Hello, everybody. You probably don't know me. I haven't been a member that long, so don't believe those photos you saw earlier. That's not true. Can you hear me? Yeah, I just want to suggest, and maybe some of you don't know, if you're cross-country skiers, you know who Jesse Diggins is, right? First gold medal ever with Keegan Randall for the United States. And they're going to have a welcome home celebration for her this coming Saturday. Unfortunately, it might be 12 inches of snow. We'll see. You can ski to it. Very good. This will be held at the former I-Mation Center in Lake Elmo, I guess that would be, on Highway 5, which is probably a different number now, but Doug would know. Okay, this event is at Saturday, April 14th, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. There will be door prizes, posters, an opportunity to meet Jesse. So
Please post on the forum.
I could possibly, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll post this on the forum. That's only 2 days away, obviously, but if you can make it, I'm sure it'll be a crowd there. She'll appreciate it. So just a plug for Jesse. So thank you. One One other quick question, as long as I'm here, for the people who schedule rides. If you schedule a ride as a weekly ride, and now we can put that ride in a month or two in advance with the same details, are we going to have to enter that ride individually every week? The details don't change under the new system?
You can change the details.
Yes, but yes, you are.
You don't have to.
Okay.
But you will have to submit a ride for every week that you want to have the ride.
But can I do 8 rides in advance and not have to do it every week when I'm submitting the rides?
I don't think so.
I gotta, every week I have to do it?
You have to do yes, you can do it big. Once the event is approved, you can go schedule the rides one right after the other.
So I don't have to enter it every week for the next 8 weeks. I can do it once and be done.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll have to do it.
Okay.
Click it each time. You hit the button 8 times. But you hit the button, and the next, if you're doing a weekly like you were about for
Okay.
every local,
Right.
it'll automatically, every Tuesday, at that time, it'll flip over and you can pretty much just take a quick look and say, bing, save, bing, bing, bing.
Every week I'll have to hit the button, is what I'm
You can do that ahead of time. You can do it all at the same time.
You can do it all one sitting.
Okay, very good.
What it knows how to do then is it'll say schedule ride on next available date. So if you just hit it 8 times, it'll put it in 8 weeks in a row.
Good, that's what I needed to know. Thank you very much. Thanks, folks.
Good question, Bob. Thank you. Thanks for plugging Jesse. So now we'll have a question and answer period limited by the clock. And we have about 10 minutes so we can entertain questions. So, Christine, you want to get the microphone? Just here's the microphone.
So everything on the website for leaders in regard to doing rides out of state for like 3 or 4 or 5 days, everything's there, right?
Yes, yes. Everything's there.
If you don't see it, email scheduling team will make sure you
Yeah.
do it.
If you don't see it, email Pat.
Don't call me.
I might have missed it, but when does the new scheduling and ride stats entry go into effect?
It already is.
It's there now.
It's up today.
Did you have something to say, Diane?
Well, what we will do then is we have
We have some photos we think you'd like looking at. Thanks to Don Picard, he went through his archives. Do you want the lights down a little more to see those? How did we do the lights?
Yeah, that was a polar bear ride, the previous.
Sorry. What did you hit here?
This main switch. I think it looks down on that side.
That's all I see. Sorry. I did.
Because it's on.
That
was yesterday. That green guy.
Well, you know, I think it's true that TCBC members have more fun. And so Let's all celebrate by stuffing ourselves with some cake, and we can write it off tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.
They take ride cards. We didn't say just take a couple of business cards.
Are they out?
Yeah, I think they're all.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I did it in 5 minutes.